Hi, everyone from North Central Maryland, where I am in the midst of a deep freeze. It's about 15 degrees outside right now. And welcome to Filling in the Void in SecOps Tools with Cloud Context. Today's webinar is sponsored by Stream.Security and produced by Actual Tech Media. My name is Keith Ward. I am with Actual Tech Media, and I am thrilled to be your moderator for this special event. But before we get to the amazing presentation we've got on tap for you, I do need to cover some housekeeping items. And the first thing is this: we want your questions. This is going to be a great event. There's going to be lots of questions that are going to be brought to your mind. So please put them in the Q&A box in your webinar control panel, which you should be able to see right over there on your right-hand side. Now, at the end of the presentation, we're going to have a Q&A session to answer some of the top questions that come in. So keep asking those questions throughout the presentation today. Now, that Q&A panel is also the place to let us know about any technical issues that you might be experiencing. If you can't hear something or see something, if the slides aren't working, give your browser a quick refresh, or maybe two. Sometimes it takes a couple of them. And that should fix any problem that you might have. If that doesn't work, though, please let us know in that Q&A and we will help you out with further technical assistance. All right, next up, check out that handout section. That is right there next to that Q&A tab. A bunch of great free resources right there. Especially like to call your attention to 3 free offerings from Stream.Security today. There's a couple of PDFs, including an integrations data sheet and a guide to CDR essentials. There's also a link to a Stream.Security overview. Now that is what I call a killer lineup of resources, so check those out. Now, another important thing you're going to find in the handout section is a link to the ATM Events Center. Now, this has our calendar of more upcoming events just like this one. So head over there, see what you like, and sign up for some more events when you see something that tickles your fancy there. Okay, next, at the end of the webinar event, we are going to be awarding one of you a $250 Amazon gift card. Maybe it'll help you pay off some of those holiday bills that your credit card may have racked up. Now, you do have to be in attendance during the entire live event to qualify for the prize. The official terms and conditions of the prize drawing can be found in the handout section. Scroll to the bottom and you'll find the link with all these super boring details right there. And finally, folks, I mentioned before about the questions. We're going to further encourage you to ask questions by giving away another $50 Amazon gift card. So what's going to happen is at the end of the event, we are going to take all of these great questions that come in, pick out the best one, and that person will get a $50 Amazon gift card. So there's multiple ways to win some money today. And with that, folks, let us get to our fantastic content. I can't wait to get started. It is my pleasure to introduce you to our presenter, Stav Sitnikov, the Chief Product Officer. We are going to bring him on right now. Stav, it is great to see you today. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you very much, Keith, for the introduction.
Sorry, do not hear you right now, Stav.
Can you hear me now?
Uh-oh. I don't know if other people hear you or not. Okay, apparently other people can hear you. The problem seems to be on my end. In other words, user error. As always with me is the most likely culprit, Stav. We can hear you. You are good to go. So, sir, please take it away. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Keith, and hello, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us today. As Keith mentioned, my name is Stav Sitnikov. I'm one of the co-founders and the Chief Product Officer at Stream.Security. Today, I will walk you through the growing challenges SecOps teams face as cloud environments become more dynamic, interconnected. We will discuss the gaps in the traditional detection and response tools and how cloud detection and response, aka CDR, can actually might help fill those gaps. Now, I won't do it the traditional way as you are used to in security webinars, where usually somebody will come in and pitch you and show you how you might get breached. We all know that AI, 0 days, and human mistakes are all there to make your life harder. In this webinar, I would like us to tackle the challenges every SecOps team that operates at some scale in the cloud have and to try and open up your mind to potential solutions that will actually make your life easier. Now, the key challenges SecOps operators face in the cloud and in hybrid cloud environments are usually the same. False positives are there to stay. Some teams get thousands of alerts a day, some much less. False positives can actually be tackled, whether it's by prioritizing them based on the cloud context, whether it's having better abilities to investigate them faster and actually conclude that those are false positives. And we will deep dive into those solutions as well. We will talk about the way that manual detection rules become pretty much obsolete the moment a new service is integrated in your cloud, meaning that your teams will have over time to run after the cloud service providers, new additions of capabilities, and the SaaS solution that you have in place. On top of that, most teams, even ones that have advanced SOCs with SOAR in place, are still having many manual steps done when a potential threat is detected. They will usually go to cross-correlate data in between tools and systems on top of SOAR tools that will probably run and add some context. While in on-prem environments, when SOAR runs and adds context, in most cases, the SOAR data is actually correct because the environment is static. SOAR becomes pretty much obsolete in cloud environments that can change rapidly, meaning that your CMDB is probably not up to date. Your CSPM and Synapse solutions might have scanned the environment a long time ago, meaning that the data you will get about the asset can be obsolete as well. And as we all know, cloud environments are complex, especially at scale and multi-cloud, and all of those create huge challenges on us and the teams at the pace that the environment change and actual changes are introduced to them. Now, you can't have uh, a security webinar without a MITRE attack slide. We probably, as you all know, and you track MITRE over time, the amount of TTPs in the MITRE attack frameworks is growing year over year. There are many more ways for a threat actor to get in. There are many ways for a threat actor to laterally move. There are many ways for a threat actor to hit your environment. Just recently, we have seen that new malware attacks are actually using cloud APIs to go and encrypt S3 buckets using an external key. Whoa, and that was actually an attack that has been done recently, like 2 weeks ago. A threat actor penetrated an organization through initial access via identities, copied all of the objects in S3 bucket, encrypted them using an external key, and that's it. So no machine involved, pure API ransomware attack. And that's, I think, actually what's coming up next. Attacks will be faster with more APIs involved, meaning that you actually need solution to understand every activity at the API layer of the cloud. Now, if we would look at a cloud environment and visualize that, a cloud environment is usually looks like a web of interconnected assets governed by various security tools, next generation firewalls, identity policies, network policies, and security controls. For you and your team to actually be able to take a potential detection and respond to it effectively, your team will need to clearly understand the entire attack storyline, where it started, how it spread, what was impacted, and this level of visibility is often is missing in traditional tools. Now, let's take an example of an attack in a cloud environment. Usually there is an initial access, right? Somebody was phished, credentials were leaked, your third-party vendor has been breached, or an remote code execution has been hit on some of your front-facing applications. At that point, usually the threat actor would want to understand where he is, what he can do, and what you have in the environment. So cloud enumeration will happen. He will list buckets, look at his own policies, roles, etc. And if he sees that he is in a lower environment, he will usually try to do some kind of a lateral movement. Let's say an assume role operation. Then once he assumes that role, he will probably have the ability to do some stuff that have a higher privileges. For example, exploit a workload using maybe SSM injection of specific code into a running machine, and then basically create persistency from a workload. So moving from an identity attack vector to a workload attack vector to persistency, and then use the machine permissions to actually go in, exfiltrate data, and potentially evade detections. Now, if we will take such an attack flow in the cloud and we will break it down to what you will see in the workload level and what you will see in the cloud logs, there will be a mixture. Most of the attack will be in the cloud logs, audit logs of your cloud, no matter which cloud it is. And some of it will actually be presented in the workload level, right? Now, if we take such an attack and break it down to how the tool that we use today will actually detect them, we will see that we have EDR. Potentially, we have EDR on our endpoints in the cloud. It might be EDR or an XDR solution, which basically intercept them both. And we will traditionally have a SIEM or a data lake to ingest all of those logs, have policies on top of them to detect potential threats. Now, let's see how those tools combined will match, detect, and detect the attack that I just explained. Looking at the EDR solution, it will probably detect some unusual process, some bash execution, or a reverse shell on the workload at the point of the lateral movement and exploitation to the machine. It might detect a spike in data when the threat actor tries to exfiltrate the data from the machine to a C2 outside of the environment. And then at some point, the threat actor will probably dump the logs from the machine to make it harder for you to understand what actually happened. Now, that means that at the point of the EDR detection, you will be missing a lot of data around the attack, right? You will be able to actually understand that, hey, a machine has been potentially breached. There is an EDR detection. Hopefully it's not a false positive and you believe in your tooling, but you won't be able to actually understand the entire storyline. So if the only detection during that attack, and let's say your SIEM failed you or any other solution failed you, was the workload detection, you now have a super heavy lifting work to do to actually understand, okay, I'm going to quarantine that machine. What had happened around it? Where has the breach happened? What did the machine do? Is there any other persistency points in my environment? All of that you'll have to do for SIEM logs, which are usually raw logs, which are not heavily correlated, especially when a SIEM roles operation happened and potentially the threat actor actually moved in between environments. So you have no idea what is the original principle and what it can actually do more in the environment, right? Now let's look at our SIEM. If we look at the SIEM potential detections, and let's hope you have those rules in place, you will have a detection on a potential, let's say an unusual location detection. That will usually be detected on an unsophisticated threat actor. Usually threat actors will know where your offices are and where are the locations of the employees that will actually interact with your cloud. So that will probably not be a detection. The best case, and that will happen for you, that's a good starting point for you to start reacting and investigating. Now, during the cloud enumeration process, again, on an unexperienced threat actor, a spike in API calls might happen. Usually, experienced threat actors will batch their operations. They will do them slowly. They might even sit there for multiple days to actually learn the environment and won't execute the entire thing fast, depending on how the attack sequence is. Then let's say they understand that they must elevate permissions and they will assume a role. Now, let's say you had a misconfiguration in the environment where actually the environment that was breached was a dev account, but there was a role that was possible to be assumed in your production environment. The threat actor looked at logs and seen that this role actually exists and was assumed in the past. An assume role operation happens. Your SIEM will have a log of an assume role. The question is if there will be a detection and if you will be able to actually understand who is the principal that assumed the role in the production environment. At that phase, that's the end of your SIEM log, right? EDR will detect. At this stage, the threat actor might be stuck on a machine that doesn't have, let's say, run SSM scripts on the machine, but he is unable to get foothold. to connect to to a C2 outside of the environment. Why? Since the egress of the security group of that instance is closed. So he goes and modifies the security group of the instance and basically allows egress to any port. Now, in your SIEM, you will have a log, a security group has been modified, egress has been opened. Will you understand what is the impact of that change? Which machine is now actually open to the internet, or what it is immediately? Probably not. You will need to do additional context and actually figure out which machine now got exposed to be able to send outbound connectivity to the internet. Then you might get traffic spike during the exfiltration phase from the actual cloud logs if you're using something like VPC, flow logs, or other network logs in the environment. Your EDR will probably alert on that as well. As I mentioned, many times in a threat, movement in the environment, configuration changes will need to be done in case your environment is well maintained, right? So you have sufficient access segmentation, you did your best. None of us are uh, fully misconfigured, and for sure there are stuff that will happen. So threat actor will probably need to do configuration changes. Those points in a SIEM are points that can be detected very well if the SIEM would have actually understand the impact of the change to alert you on a potential critical configuration, such as the security group now open this high business asset with an outbound connectivity to the internet. And this is before data was actually exfiltrated, right? So the threat actor cannot exfiltrate the data at our point without modifying the security group. If you would have understood that this modification actually now allowed a critical asset, let's say a database, like a hosted database on your VM, a SQL database to be outbound connecting to the internet, you would probably understand that you have a big issue without any threat indication or an anomaly detection at that point. Understanding the impact of the environment, the impact of alerts, the impact of what is actually detected on is one of the critical issues that create the frustration in security teams on spending a lot of time on investigation since they are missing the context. The context is the key. Same as we understood 4 years ago that we need to add context to the CSPM layer of the world for us to better prioritize vulnerabilities and do the toxic combinations. Same needs to happen in cloud security operations. Now, again, traditional detections are failing us down. And you need to ask yourself whether your organization and your tooling is actually ready when you will need it, right? When a real threat actor potentially gets in, will you able to detect it? Will you able to respond in time? And will you able to go back in time and actually respond to all of the places where persistency might have been put in place? And you can ask yourself those 4 questions. Can we, in 60 seconds, understand what is the potential blast radius of a breach identity? After performing some kind of an operation, what will the actual user have in place to work with as the next step, as the next potential step? After a security group is modified, can we actually understand what is the impact? When an alert is detected and you have in the CloudTrail log a specific IP address in the audit log, can you actually understand which asset owns this IP in your environment? If you can't answer those in 60 seconds, it means that you need to think very good if you believe in the fact that your organization will actually be able to respond to a real threat actor that is using scripted, automated ways in the environment, and you will be able to potentially detect and stop them before the exfiltration point. And that's our job as security operations teams. Now, CDR, the concept of CDR was built specifically to tackle those problems. Now, vendors talk about CDR in different ways. we at Stream believe that CDR should enable your team to have real-time visibility and actionable insights to detect, investigate, and respond to threats across every layer in your cloud environment. Some vendors will take CDR to a spin of runtime security, where it will actually say, okay, we need a solution to have a better EDR to get the context on the machine around it. We actually believe in Stream that CDR should be an holistic way to look at cloud, including the runtime layers, whether those are through integrations or direct support by the CDR vendor. In most enterprises that we have met, they already have tools in place, right? So you probably will have like a CrowdStrike, a SentinelOne, you will have a SIEM. And the idea that we believe in a CDR is that it should actually go and integrate into your workflow, and we will get to that in a second. Now, if we look at it in a very simplistic way, traditional detection will usually detect things in the same severity. So if I have two instances in my environment, a detection rule hits both, it will always have the same severity on the log, right? So a machine, two instances, same rule detected, both of them will always have the same severity. CDR come in place and actually reprioritizes those detections. It has the ability to understand the potential exploitability of the asset, the potential blast radius, and to actually read out the entire session so that you don't detect against specific logs, but you detect against a storyline of activities combined together. So in our case, two high severity detections might actually translate to one critical detection where CDR actually understood that this asset is exploitable through a WAF that just had a CV running in place, and it has the potential privilege escalation possibility and has access to PAI data, right? So this is something that you need to go and respond right now, even if potentially it's a false positive. The other detection is actually a low detection. Why? Since the asset is not connected to anything in my cloud and it is isolated in a subnet, meaning that 99.999% the detection is false positive. And that's how CDR can dramatically reduce the amount of noise, elevate the things that are critical, and enable your team to actually understand what is the potential of exploitability, to understand what is the potential of false positive around that asset, what is the potential blast radius, and then give you the ability to understand what actually happened. Now, if we will roll back to the issues that we have discussed at the beginning of the webinar, we have CDR should provide the solutions to those problems in your cloud environments. To tackle false positives, and no tool is perfect, we will still have false positive. Posture-aware prioritization is done by the CDR, meaning that when a detection happens, whether it's through the actual CDR detection or your EDR integrated detection or any other tool you have in place, you can actually use the CDR to prioritize the detection based on the posture. What is the potential exploitability, if there is any? What is the potential blast radius? Does it have access to PII data? Can it do a privilege escalation and become an admin, right? That's something that CDR will help you with, and that will eliminate the amount of false positive high severity alerts that you get, and will create data points in time for you. CDR usually uses session-based detection techniques. Unlike traditional SIEM tools where you have static rules to detect specific logs or cross-correlate in between logs, CDR will look at sessions of activities, being able to actually look at a session, match it to an entire MITRE workflow, and decide on the severity of detection, not on a single log line, but actually on a storyline, allowing you to, first of all, have a high fidelity detection by understanding what actually happened that caused that detection. So aggregation of signals, cross-correlating them with the actual posture altogether. As well, CDR is fingerprinting assets in your environments, whether those are identities or workloads. In the CDR approach, we believe that you cannot run after detection rules because let's say you're using AWS. Bedrock, that's an AI service if you guys don't know, has been just released. Your development team and business team immediately rush, we need to integrate AI right now. If you are not using something that does anomaly detection in the cloud and actually understand those operations automatically, maybe with LLMs or other techniques, you will need to chase those with rules. Now, if a breach happens until you have those rules, you will never know about that breach. And this is why we believe that actually fingerprinting is the right way to go on the cloud, while you and your team can actually go and add detection policies on top of the fingerprinting mechanism to detect high fidelity signals that you know of. So for example, if you know your application should never communicate outbound, generate connection to China, you can set easily a rule like that will probably be detected by fingerprint, but you will still have the immediate context of understanding, hey, this is critical and not actually maybe a high severity detection. CDR solves entirely manual analysis in the cloud. It should give you an entire automated storyline of everything related to the detection. What happened to the asset, what the asset has done across identity, network, and runtime, whether it's through integrations or directly through the tool. CDR will give you the ability to understand the attack path to the asset, the potential blast radius, the running vulnerabilities, etc. Meaning that you have one tool to actually investigate the entire potential breach without going back and forth within your SIEM, EDR, CloudTrail logs using Athena, or any other tool that you might have in place to actually understand those, maybe going into your CSPM to get additional context. And for the purpose of cloud complexity, CDR give you, by design, the real-time attack surface of your environment, meaning that your team will always know where a breach might happen, so that they will always be ready and maybe set specific rules or canaries, which is a different topic, to actually cover those type of assets with higher fidelity detections. CDR should actually be able to reveal and cross-correlate data across all layers of your cloud: identity, network, Kubernetes, ingesting threat intelligence logs, whether from your home use tool like VirusTotal or any other tool in place. And it should understand the potential exploitability, the blast radius, using both integrations and direct capabilities. At the end, a CDR solution will look something like this. Whoops, misclicked. So you will have the cloud logs being streamed down to your CDR. Those will include logs from any cloud source in your environment. That might be a multi-cloud environment such as AWS, GCP. Maybe you're using an SSO of Okta or an Active Directory in your environment. The idea is for you to actually get all the necessary data in a single tool, in a single format, and that actually allows the CDR solution to provide a great value for money at a super attractive price point. Usually, most CDR solutions automatically clean the data. It means that CDR solutions know how the data should look like in the cloud. They clean it all, unlike your SIEM that is used to get a lot of data and then store it for a longer time period. CDR solutions should understand which data should be saved for longer periods of time. When the detection happens, definitely, maybe the rest you should not save for a longer period of time, and that will actually reduce the price of the CDR solution for you. Most CDRs, like ours, can actually get backfill data, meaning that if you want to go and investigate back in time and the data does not exist in the CDR at that point, it can actually go to your potential data storage and pull in the data back to actually provide you the investigation. That's why CDR solutions are high cost to value elements into your cloud environment. Now let's look at the workflow of a CDR solution. As we mentioned, CDR will feed the logs from your cloud native applications. That might be CloudTrail logs, network logs, Kubernetes audit logs, Okta logs, Azure Entra identity logs. As well, it will integrate with your EDR and XDR solution, or maybe cloud native solutions like GuardDuty. It will be able to actually build a full representation of your cloud environment, understanding the impact of every log line, enabling you to understand entire storylines, detect threats using fingerprints, and then alert with highly enriched data to your existing SIEM, XDR, or any other messaging channels in use, such as Slack, Teams, etc. Your security operations team will consume this data and investigate the detections in the CDR, having all data needed to actually make a decision. Or you might decide that some detections will be automatically run with playbooks and responded with SOAR. We believe that at some point of time, CDR solution will be so good that customers will actually trust them to auto-respond. We all know that we all ask vendors to have auto-response, but nobody actually enables auto-response in production, for example. We believe that the CDR solution should enable your team to not only understand what have happened, but to actually understand what will be the impact of the response needed on the application. And if you guys would love to take more details on that perspective, we would love to chat with you. We believe that the modern SecOps architecture will look something like that. You will have your EDR, XDR, ADR, whatever we will call that solution in place, which will take care of your OS level, Kubernetes level, threat detection in place. Those solutions are built and designed to do exactly that in a very good way. CDR solution will take care of everything that happens in the cloud, and they will work tightly with endpoint detection response solutions. You will probably have an ITDR solution for your SaaS applications, which will probably cross-correlate with CDR as well. All of those solutions will detect potential threat, and you will send them to your SIEM or data lake, where the SIEM will become the point of aggregation and cross-correlation between tools, and the place where the SOC investigation actually starts, but it never ends there. You will actually be able to go down to the actual purpose-built solution for the environment that you are investigating in, enabling you to respond and basically having the investigations and detection flows much faster, hopefully much safer for your organization, while reducing the cost that you actually pay today to your SIEM by switching raw log from the SIEM down to dedicated solution, while still having all the data needed for a long period of time of storage. Kif, I've seen we had great questions.
And you are correct, Stav. We do have some great questions. First of all, I want to thank you for a fantastic presentation. What you are saying is so important nowadays. In some ways, I did a little bit of time in IT way back when, and that was back when you had a walled garden. All you had to worry about, was like a single firewall in some cases. And we can do a lot more nowadays, but sometimes it's easy to long for those days when security was much easier, isn't it? Now with the cloud and everything, it's so much more complicated, which is why solutions like this have come along. But we have some great questions, so why don't we get right to those now? First up here, Ned wants to know, do you believe that adopting AI-driven processes and more automation helps organizations transform security operations to better handle modern threats? So basically, I would actually say, what are you doing with AI right now, and how is that being integrated as a more general type of question?
That's a great question by Nad. So there is the term AI SOC that everybody now speak about. And I think actually Gartner started going against that way, and multiple other uh, highly ranked analysts. I believe that AI will have two phases in cloud security. At the first phase, AI will actually augment workflows while helping the SOC team actually drive the actions. So for example, in our platform, when you do an investigation, you can click to use an AI agent, which will actually help you with the trial summarization, with the investigation down to text. You can interact with it to do operations if you don't want to do like click operations on the UI itself. And then it can actually even suggest you the respond operations, right? But AI is being led by the actual SecOps operator. I think that in the second phase, those agents will actually be the ones that will lead the flows, and they will have some fidelity of, let's call it, belief in themselves. They should understand whether they are going to be precise or not. So let's say I have a triage agent. The triage agent can say, okay, in 50%, I might be right. I need a human here to actually decide. If I'm showing myself in 90%, I should go now and call the investigation agent. right? And then the flow will actually break down and will ask like, do I need a human assistant or I do it alone? And that's where I believe AI will go to. I believe that for that to happen, you will have to have all of those solutions having like agentic SDKs and stuff like that, that I believe vendors like us and others are working. And that's where I believe the industry will go with AI. I think we are at the very early stage of that.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that, and it's only getting bigger and bigger. So let's move to the next question then. Ahmed wants to know, with stringent data protection regulations, how does Stream.Security ensure compliance while merging cloud context into SecOps tools? And what are the specific measures taken to secure sensitive data in transit and at rest? A big, long question with a lot of parts here.
Yeah, so that's a great question. First of all, I think that any security vendor, by design, you should build a relationship with and understand how their internal architecture is working. How data is transferred, that's a great question. For us, many customers actually send data via private links and not even over the internet. Of course, we encrypt the data and all of that. You need to take into account that CDR solutions, like SIEM solutions, look at metadata logs. Usually, you won't have any data in those logs. You will actually see a network 5-tuple or 7-tuple with layer 7 enrichments. You will see a CloudTrail log. There is no sensitive data in it, meaning that the data in the CDR is basically metadata of your cloud. I hope I answered that good enough.
No, absolutely. Very comprehensive. Okay, here's one question that I think probably a lot of our attendees right now have. Michael wants to know, can this product easily integrate with Splunk?
That's a great question. So as I mentioned, we believe the CDR must be part of an ecosystem. Most of our customers have a SIEM. Most of them actually have Splunk. As you know, Splunk is one of the biggest vendors right now for SIEM, right? I think that's why they're worth $26 billion. Now, we integrate natively into Splunk. Stream sends data to Splunk. Stream has the ability for you to go from Splunk directly to Stream and back. We even have a Chrome extension that sits on top of Splunk and enriches the data from Stream to Splunk on top of your web screen without even going out of Splunk. So there are a bunch of ways for you to get value out of Splunk immediately.
Oh, very nice. I especially like that one. Not having to kind of leave the UI just ramps up your efficiency too. So that is great to hear. Okay, next question for you, Stav. How is threat detection done with CDR, i.e. cloud detection and response?
So threat detection with CDR is usually built based on fingerprinting, as I mentioned. You will try to build baselines of behavior for any asset in your cloud. That might be an identity, like an SSO Okta user executing commands, a user executing commands in your cloud. It will be a Kubernetes pod, a machine, a serverless function, or just keys or roles, right? CDR should be able to do those in a smart way, grouping by stuff together. So for example, if you have an auto-scaling group, you won't want to build a separate baseline for each instance in the auto-scaling group. You actually want to learn the entire auto-scaling group as a single asset. Same thing for Kubernetes pods, etc. Then based on those fingerprints, CDR is able to detect deviations from activities. Again, CDR looks at sessions, not specific detection, so it can actually figure out if an attack is going on. CDR might detect a threat a bit later, but when CDRs detect a threat, it actually gives you the entire storyline with a high fidelity severity and the information given to detect. And you can always add your own static detection rules in the CDR. The good thing about it is that you build it on single formatted data, unlike the need in SIEM to run SQL queries on different JSONs from various log trails in your cloud environment. So you will get both benefits together.
Absolutely, and that is super important. Okay, next we have a question. I imagine from an IT admin who has lots of tools in their environment, and it is this: does CDR need to have an agent?
Great. Stream by design is an agentless CDR, right? We integrate with the EDR solutions that you have in place. That what might be like a cloud native solution like Guard Duty in your AWS environment, Azure Defender, SentinelOne, CrowdStrike, Cortex, whatever it is. Some CDR solutions, and that's part of our roadmap as well, we'll have probably an agent, a runtime UPF agent for the Kubernetes layers. I believe that there is a gap in Kubernetes for EDR solutions, like the top vendors right now. But we believe strategically that they will close those gaps, and we want to focus specifically on the things that we are best at. And that's why our strategy is actually going as an agentless approach while integrating with those solutions to build up the entire storylines.
That's nice. Yeah, I like that. Okay, here's another interesting one. With you mentioned SOAR a little bit, so let's dive in a little bit more with this question. With Stream's SOAR integration, how do we ensure automated responses are accurate and don't disrupt legitimate activities, especially when customizing playbooks for cloud-specific threats?
That's a great question, a complex answer. So by design, I think that SOAR has two things to add to a security operations team. Add context from external tools, run a workflow against a detection. So for example, a detection happened on Stav user, send him a Slack message, ask him on email whether it was actually him, right? That so that I don't need to actually call him as a SOC operator and ask him, hey, have you just connected from Hungary or have you just added a new admin user in the environment? That's a great way that SOC can handle stuff and add your context. I don't think that SOC directly should be running automated response. I think you should have SOC playbooks where somebody actually goes and run them, right? Now, what we believe that CDR will add to the table, and this is on our roadmap for actually the next quarter, is to enable a team to understand which playbooks they can potentially run on any asset in the cloud, and then tell them what is the impact with a severity score of the impact on the application. Now, you can actually set those playbooks in your SOAR and then build a decision mechanism in the SOAR. Hey, this is the detection. Stream said that if you run that playbook, the potential impact is low, high, critical. Decide if to automate or do it manually. So that's how we look at SOAR at Stream.
Okay, great, great. Now, I want to remind everyone that we have got the QR code up here. I encourage everyone to keep using that code while we go through several more questions. And I also want to remind everyone that the handouts are available. There's 3 awesome ones from Stream.Security. They are all free to download right now. So keep interacting that way as well while we take your fantastic questions. I have another great one here from Steve, who wants to know, like the other question on integrating with Splunk, does Stream.Security integrate tools like Amazon Guard Duty and Azure Security Center, use native integrations to detect threats and vulnerabilities?
Yes, so Stream does its own detection and response, but we know that many customers love the tools that they have. So Stream integrates natively with Guard Duty, Azure Defender, Google Command Center, I think that's the name for it, and basically any detection tools in your stack. The idea is for us to build coming into your ecosystem. You might decide that, okay, Stream is good enough, or maybe much better, up to you to test it out against the cloud native tools, or just integrate it, get the investigations in Stream with our detections and your EDR detections together in place.
Okay. What's great is that you don't force any lock-in also. I mean, it's nice to say,
Definitely.
You've got to use this and this and this from us, or else, you give the option, which is what we all want. Okay, have another excellent question. And this one is more about product differentiation with your solution. So here's the question. Isn't XDR, especially something like Palo Alto Cortex XDR that works in the cloud, enough for detecting and responding to threats? And what does Stream add that XDR can't already handle?
That's a great question. So first of all, we have customers that are using us together with Palo Alto Cortex and even Palo Alto XIM, right? Which basically is the SIEM and the XDR and the SOAR all together. Where Stream comes in is actually building those special detections with the fingerprinting, looking at the sessions, not only doing it with rules and some fingerprinting. We actually understand the impact of every change so that you guys can actually see, like, Keith did this change. This is the impact without and you will be able to understand that you're being breached without even a threat detected, right? None of the tools in the market can do that. That allows us to cross-correlate findings across layers in the cloud. So from identity to a configuration, to an asset, to a network breach, to a C2 connection. None of those tools do that. We integrate with XDR so that we push their detection in place. We push our detections to the Cortex and XIM. So you can still have your Cortex and XIM in place. Stream, and by using Stream inside that type of environment, you will get the immediate blast radius, attack paths, understanding of the entire investigation in your cloud. And as you mentioned, it's an XDR solution, meaning that it was built for your laptop, your server, your cloud, and a bunch of other tools. And that's why we believe that CDR is actually a place that has its own thing in the overall SOC SIEM play.
All right. And so what I am hearing in that answer, Stav, also is that this is the importance of having partners with expertise. You know, I mean, Stream understands this stuff. That is what you do. It's your business. And so you're going to have that kind of insight that maybe others are missing, or that the company itself that is considering you, may not have that expertise. So this is what you do, and having someone who knows this stuff is so crucial. All right, I want to go ask you, I think maybe one more question here before we start to wrap up today. And this one is an interesting one too. Any security tool needs great documentation for users to make best use of it, but this documentation is also intel, right? Good information for threat actors. So how do you protect against threat actors gaining control of the CDR tool?
So we do our best to secure ourselves, right? So Stream is a SOC 2 Type 2 compliance, SOC 2 Type 2 compliance. We underwent for example, we are hosted on AWS, by the way. But not a secret. I'm open to say it. And we have underwent the AWS security competency compliance, which means that AWS actually checked us as well because we're part of their ecosystem. On top of that, we do regular penetration testing, and I hope everyone does, because that's the basis of having a secured solution. And of course, every customer, no matter its size, or like many vendors try to push like SSO is for such level. SSO by design, MFA is available. You can track the audit logs. You can actually see every operation in the environment. And we do our best to keep us on guarded and make sure that our customers are not impacted by Stream.
Okay, fantastic. Well, Stav, it has been an absolute delight to have you on today. I appreciate the presentation, answered so many questions. You generated so much interest among the attendees here today, which is the sure sign of a great presentation. And thank you for educating us so much on what Stream.Security is doing. It has been a real pleasure to have you today.
Thank you very much, Keith, and thank you very much everyone for joining. I hope you enjoyed the session and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you so much. All right, folks, and I did want to point out here too that number one, I'm leaving the QR code up while I give away our prize at the end here. So you still have another minute to click on that and to download the handouts. I also wanted to mention that we got a lot of great questions. We are not able to get to all of them, but that for those of you who asked questions that weren't answered, that the Stream.Security team will be doing their best to respond to all the questions that came in today. So sit tight on that end. And folks, that brings us to near the end of our event here. But before we wrap up, I do have to do that last bit, which I mentioned before, is give away the $250 Amazon card for this event. As I said at the top here, you do have to be present for this or any actual tech media event to be eligible to win the gift card. And we do have a winner for today, and that winner is Ben Madron from Virginia. So congratulations to you, Ben. we will be in touch to get you your card. And with that, folks, we are wrapped. On behalf of the Actual Tech Media team, I want to thank Stream.Security and Stav for being here, making this event possible, for the amazing presentation. I want to thank you, attendees, as always, for being here with us. Thank you for your great questions and interest in this crucial topic. That concludes the event, folks. I am going to go try to get a little bit warmer. I hope you are staying warm, and I cannot wait to see you in the next event. Have a great rest of your day.